morning. Welcome to Live with Liz. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Thanks for joining me again. Today, we are focusing on pro bono. Pro bono work for we're focusing on how law firms provide pro bono work and why. And this is a question, I know a lot of you know that I work often with foreign law firms outside of the United States that provide services to the United States. And there seems to be a bit of a disconnect when it comes to pro bono services offered in the United States and pro bono services offered outside of the United States. They're not on par with each other. They're not necessarily the same thing, and the concepts are treated differently. This is changing. Over the last decade or so, I've definitely noticed pro bono programs and activities and the effort. Good morning, Mariana. Happy to see you. The effort that people are making outside of the United States is definitely growing. It's becoming something that people are more committed to. And it's also possible that I'm just not familiar with all of the different structures. So let's talk about what I'm familiar with is mostly how pro bono is offered in the United States. And then much of my experience does come from Latin America, where I have been seeing pro bono activity pick up. So with that in mind, what is pro bono? Why are we offering pro bono? And for a lot of attorneys outside of the United States that don't have this as a part of their day-to-day, you might not be familiar with this term. It's Latin. It literally means for the good of the public. Actually, pro bono is short. It's pro bono publico, which is for the good of the public. And when we're talking about pro bono with law firm services, hey, Leah, good morning. We're talking about legal services being provided generally to low-income individuals, people who cannot afford to pay for these services, by lawyers who offer their professional skills for the greater good. And if you're offering some volunteer services or you're doing a few projects or tasks here and there for these types of individuals, if you're not doing work that is traditionally billed or that is customarily and usually billed to clients who actually pay, it's not considered pro bono work. So we're talking about actual legal work that you would do for clients who cannot afford to pay for it. Mostly, not only are we talking about low-income individuals, but for B2B law firms, we're also talking about not-for-profit organizations, perhaps educational institutions, nonprofits, NGOs, these types of organizations that need to utilize corporate legal services or business legal services that B2B law firms are poised to provide. Now, it's often surprising to counsel that I work with outside of the United States how much pro bono is expected in the United States. And the question is why? What are we doing this? Why are we doing this? And I know that there's a reason for this. When I talk to lawyers, even in the United States, most people I know don't have a lot of extra time to dedicate to volunteerism and to actual work without being paid for it. So, why do we do this? Why is this so ingrained as part of the law firm culture in the United States? Why is this expectation there that you should even do this? And how much are we talking about? So the American Bar Association and many local and state bars provide guidance on this as a part of ethics. Lawyers are uniquely positioned to offer legal services. Non-lawyers can't provide it. Society needs legal services. So how do we come to this position where American lawyers are just accepting of the fact that pro bono is a part of our lives? And I'm not a US lawyer, just a consumer and person who works in the legal industry, but why is pro bono so much a part of our lives here in the US? And I know a lot of people have the framework for this because they watch TV with law firm shows, and you see it all the time in law firm shows. So if that's your only frame of reference, understand that there is a reason for this. There's a long tradition of providing pro bono services, and it goes back to your bar associations and the rules of ethics and the philosophies of becoming a lawyer in the first place. So the American Bar Association has an ethical standard of lawyers providing 50 hours of, that's the recommendation, pro bono services per year. And even for those not familiar, the New York Bar Association has also these professional guidance rules, and the code that the New York Bar Association has also suggests 50 hours per attorney per year. So for all of these busy attorneys who don't really have time to dedicate to this, and need that extra structure, law firms really provide it. And so in the United States, a law firm having a pro bono program that's structured, that offers opportunities for lawyers to comply with this recommendation, is commonplace. Most of the big law firms have pro bono programs or pro bono committees. Good morning, Rachel. It's nice to see you. I wonder what they do in Jamaica. Do you have a pro bono committee, Rachel? I would really love to know about that. So that's the reason that these exist in a nutshell. And that's the reason that law firms offer them, but it goes beyond that. So it's not just something that you're doing that's good for the community, that's suggested by the Bar Association, that makes you feel good, even though it should, at the end of the day, give you some good, fuzzy, warm feelings if you're offering services to people who can't afford them and you're helping people. That's really nice. It feels good. But aside from that, there are a lot of things that law firms get out of structuring these programs. Now, I have one story when I was just starting off in consulting for law firms and doing business development. A lot of the services we provide have to do with rankings or awards and filling out submission forms and getting people recognition for the work that they do. And a partner in a law firm said to me, and this partner in this law firm is in Latin America, and he said to me, we do pro bono work. Why can't we get a pro bono award too? You should submit for that. Why don't we get this? And so I started to ask about their pro bono program and say, I wasn't even aware that you had a pro bono program, and what does it look like? How many hours are people dedicated? Is it something that applies to everyone at the firm? How many hours do you do? And really, there were a lot of questions that I had about the program, and it wasn't really a program, it turns out, after all. They were doing meaningful, impactful work for very specific organizations and clients, but it was not anywhere on the scale that would lend itself to eligibility or winning an award for the services, because the scope of these programs in the United States or globally for the international firms is so huge in comparison that it just sort of blows the mind of people running smaller firms in economies that are smaller, in jurisdictions that are smaller, where they're like, oh, I can't possibly afford to let my attorneys volunteer 50 hours of their time per year to work that's not paid. So we put this structure together, and when we start to look at how the program can benefit the law firm and what you might get back when you give, then you start to maybe evaluate the value of those efforts in a different way, the value of that time in a different way, even if you're not receiving, monetary compensation from the clients you're representing in these pro bono efforts. Now, I'd say some of the biggest things that you're going to get out of this as a law firm, if you put together a structured program, whether you do it in a committee, have a certain number of hours that you're willing to commit to, if you have an industry focus or a legal services section that really makes a difference in people's lives or in companies that are doing good for the greater good, these are the things that you'll consider as part of the structure of your program. But what are you going to get out of it? So number one, I think you're going to get professional development. And this is something that we see all the time in the United States. And is it necessarily right that the younger attorneys are getting a lot of experience this way, or that may have broader access to people in a way that they wouldn't have if they were charging for the services and the client was expecting someone seasoned to step in? Okay, maybe there's some ethical issues there. But this is an excellent way to have professional development tied to pro bono work and to allow younger attorneys to get experience with cases and clients they might not otherwise have access to if they were paying clients who expected so much more from the very beginning. So if you've got a litigation practice, or if you've got an intellectual property practice, and you've got attorneys who are ready to go but who just don't have the years of experience that a paying client would expect, then you really have this opportunity to gain this experience and knowledge by offering a volunteer to these clients that need it. There are a couple of different ways I've seen this done, but one of the most effective that I've seen over the years is lending out an attorney to go work inside of an organization for a little while without expecting any monetary compensation. So say you've got a large not-for-profit organization and they have a need for an IP attorney. They've got this legal department but don't have any IP attorneys there. Maybe they pay for some services throughout the year. Maybe they'll pay for services in the future. Maybe they just can't afford to do everything, and there are some initiatives that are really important to them, and they just don't have the resources to dedicate to it. As a law firm, you may identify those opportunities and have different lawyers set up to go work in their office for a week and say, I'm going to learn their business inside and out. I'm going to gain experience on the corporate side of this organization or on the inside of this organization that is not for profit. And by learning what their needs are, by understanding what those programs are, you're gaining such valuable experience that the firm doesn't have to pay for, that it may actually be worth that investment. So your pro bono program then becomes an investment in your people, and you get back that way. Now, the second thing that I think law firms really benefit from when it comes to offering these structured pro bono programs is, Rachel from Jamaica says they do have a pro bono committee and a legal aid clinic. Looking forward to hearing all about that. That's awesome. So the second thing is publicity. And there is a marketing benefit to offering these pro bono programs that allows you to extend the messaging related to the services that you're providing and around this professional development that you're getting to the public in a way that oftentimes is not available from paying clients. So, of course, you still have the same confidentiality and ethical standards that apply to a paying client. That, of course, still exists. But oftentimes, clients that are not able to pay for your services are grateful and are more flexible when it comes to you getting publicity from them. That may be in the form of an interview. You may be able to write about working for a specific client in a way that a paying client would not allow you to do. You may be able to really get some recognition from the client itself. The appreciation that the clients give you can turn into a marketing moment. And those are things that not only make you feel good, but then make the other clients who work with you feel good too. If they know that you're doing something for the greater good, if corporates know that you're willing to invest, hi there, Rizwan, nice to see you, then they may be more likely to look at you as potentially representing them for their paid services that they need. And corporates like to hire law firms that are socially aware and socially conscious. So nowadays, when corporates are looking at law firms and understanding what the services are they provide and what their soul is, what their conscience is, if you're giving back, you're someone who I want on my short list to represent me. And we often talk about this when we look at diversity, equity, and inclusion, and we're looking for what this firm is doing. We're also looking for your social programming and how you're giving back and what you're doing. And maybe that volunteerism isn't only related to the legal services you provide. Maybe under that social tab on your website, you might have other things that you're doing, like making donations to specific organizations that do good. But that pro bono work that you do can be so meaningful when it comes to actually deciding to hire you, that the value that you get from it may not be what it looks like at first glance. So when I hear these attorneys running law firms outside of the United States who are shocked at it, and we sit down and actually talk about what the program looks like and look at it as an investment, not just an investment in their own people for their professional development, but an investment in the community and what they get back from it, then they value it in a different way. And it really motivates people to want to participate and engage with it. And we see the US as a model. I've actually seen these programs growing in other places. And the most recent one, and I even just got an email from them yesterday, is the Inter-American IP Association. This is abbreviated ASIPI-SCB. And they have a new pro bono program. And other IP associations are also offering pro bono programs. These are, after all, bar associations. So the International Trademark Association, for example, has a pro bono program. So even if you as a small lawyer or a small law firm, not a small lawyer, you're not a small lawyer, every lawyer is important, but as a small firm or a solo practitioner, even if you don't have the resources or structure internally to provide your own program for pro bono, you can still participate through your bar associations. And also, if you don't, thanks, Prank, I really appreciate that. If you don't know where to start with pro bono programming, you can either contact us, solutions@firmforward.com, and we'd be happy to help you structure something specific for your firm, or and you can also go to usually your bar association. If you can't find one where you live, if you're outside of the United States, there are really amazing models available. They're not behind a paywall. You can just go to some of these bar association websites in the United States and look and see what the models are and best practices are. Michigan offers it, Tennessee offers it, New York offers it. The American Bar Association has best practices available for pro bono programs. And so if you have any questions, we'd love to hear about it. Thank you for joining me today on Live with Liz to talk about pro bono. I've run out of my time, so please enjoy the rest of your week and see you next Wednesday. Yeah, on Live with Liz. Take care, everybody.